Hey everyone, welcome to the workshop. Today we are going to be adding a Katana style aesthetic to this Ignition Saber Company Mercury. Now this machined hilt already has style elements that lend itself really well to this project. It's going to be a great starting point. I'll also be showing how I prepped this hilt for an electronics install, and so I'm going to link that video up here as well as down in the description. You're going to be seeing a lot of techniques, tools, and components here pretty soon, and everything that you can purchase I'm going to link down below in the description. But if you have any questions about those items or about any of the processes that I show in the video, please ask your questions down in the comments, and I would also highly encourage you to join the Saber Builders Academy on Facebook, if this hobby is of any interest to you, that is. There are thousands of members there, and it's a judgment-free zone in which we can learn about saber building. That link's going to be down in the description below as well. Let's get started. My first addition to the hilt is a unique brass thumb screw. This is not a dual-worthy addition, but meant for shelf sitting and belt hanging. More on that later. Speaking of belt hanging, here's a customized CoverTech knob. I'll be modifying the shroud later. And I'm swapping the silver fasteners for black. I chose the slimmest anti-vandal switch I could find to blend well with the hilt. Something I've always wanted is a toggle switch activation, but I ended up using this as a kill switch. Alas, that dream is for another day. The only place for exterior access and easy install is in the emitter, and as you'll see, the spacing works out perfectly. This makeshift switch holder is a polycarbonate tube, just a bit of scrap left over from blade making. The set screw actually causes it to pinch the switch well enough that it won't require adhesive. and since I used the set screw originally intended for the connector, I added another. Now I'm cleaning up the rough edges left by machining and my own modifications. And then prepping for weathering and aging. A variety of everyday items can be used to achieve different textures. Then I like to soften and polish over them. This creates a used but cared for look. Alcohol strips off grime and oil, preparing for finishing. I'm using a couple of acid processes, and really you should have proper ventilation and PPE for both. The two-part mix here is a gold patina that can achieve many different looks depending on application and conditions. The other is a blackening solution, and the same is true for it. I like the look of the emitter uncovered, so I'm trimming away most of the shroud's material. If you're at all familiar with katanas, you know that underneath the silk, cotton, or leather wrap is generally ray skin. I wanted something a little different, so I picked out a vibrant snakeskin. Now I'm using imported Japanese leather for the Ito. And let me tell you, 12 feet of this stuff is salty. In theory, this wrap is simple. Two roughly 45-degree folds are made on each tail of the wrap, and it is repeated along the entire handle. This being my first attempt, I quickly discovered that a tight and accurate wrap requires good hand strength, dexterity, and attentiveness. My work here is passable, but I clearly need more practice. There are different ways to achieve finishing knots. My rendition is something I just threw together on the fly. I'm adding some mild weathering to the wrap here. And then finishing off with 50/50 beeswax and tallow that's had a small amount of pine pitch melted in. This is a finish I make myself for use on my primitive bows and traditional muzzleloaders. Now if you want to see what this part is all about, you'll have to watch the next video where I install the profiboard and neopixels. But you'll probably get the general idea here behind opening these windows up. Now this method works fine for me, but if you don't like a bubbled look in your epoxy, I recommend using one with a slower cure time, as well as vibrating out any bubbles. I'm using JB Weld here, mixed with black dye, to fill holes and gaps. A little aluminum black to weather these copper rods. To accomplish a bit of a corroded look, I'll be using a small amount of watercolor pigment mixed with some brown enamel paints. you'll see the watercolor doesn't mix so well, and you get these nice little pockets of orange when you apply it. In the Tabasco bottle is black writing ink, and in my opinion it looks really sharp when rubbed over the top of everything. In order to mute the corrosion down in the crevices, I'm going to make a wash of water, ink, and watercolor pigment. This gives the faux corrosion a subtle look. And then of course, a sealer over that preserves the finish and gives a nice metallic sheen. When I started the build, I had a feeling I'd be coming back to the toggle switch, and I have. I'm just going to trim it down to a more comfortable length. I don't recommend doing this while it's installed, like I am, but it needs to be done, and I have pretty steady hands. Finally, back to this thumb screw. Here's why it's not optimal for dueling. It allows far too much movement between the hilt segments. Here in a moment, you'll see there's less play with the original screw, but still too much for serious dueling in my opinion. Which is why I'm adding a 440 set screw underneath the hilt. The important thing to note here is that my hilt is a first generation, and the first gen of any product has some kinks to work out. Ignition Saber Co has since acquired a more durable tube stock for the second gen Mercuries, as well as future Saber runs. The owner's a great guy and delivers a good product, so this is not at all a slight directed at them. Just a good tip for making a Saber more duel-worthy. Thank you all so much for watching. If this was at all helpful, entertaining, or inspiring, I hope you'll let me know with a comment or a thumbs up. Also, if you want to see the installation video or other cool projects, or just to help out the channel in general, please subscribe. I'll see you again soon.